Hello, dear viewer, it's me, a figment of your imagination. You ever hear a cover so good you can't even tell it's a cover? That happened to me today. That's all. Made me wonder how often that's the case. How often does a cover song completely outdo the original track? So today, I've compiled a list of a bunch of cover songs, some from my personal vault, some from Google.com, and I'm going to compare them to their original counterpart today. Are they better? Are they worse? Do they inspire me to smash my headphones with a hammer? Let's find out, shall we? Stone Temple Pilots covered Andy Warhol by David Bowie. I decided to start with a track deep in my bag of tricks off of Stone Temple Pilots' Unplugged performance, dare I say the most underrated Unplugged set ever performed. This is an incredible cover. I like this one more than the original, but do note I'm a much bigger fan of STP than I am of David Bowie. That's 1-0 for the covers. Pierce the Veil covered Karma Police by Radiohead. If you were to actually look me in my eyeballs and tell me that you truthfully enjoy this more than the original, I'm not even sure how I'd respond. It's not a bad cover, and to be honest, the first 24 seconds of this had potential. I like the idea to swap the acoustic guitar with an electric guitar here. I think it could have panned out great. Then, of course, Vic Fuentes makes himself known and delivers that classic agonizing voice that drives me into a mental crisis. This is far worse than the original, and if you think otherwise, this time, you're actually wrong. It's not an opinion. That's 1-1. Jimi Hendrix covered All Along the Watchtower by Bob Dylan. I didn't even know this was a cover, to be honest. Now that I've heard the original, I don't think it's all that close. I think the cover is significantly better here. Not that the original is bad, it's still a fantastic song. But man, Jimi Hendrix just brings something to this track that I can't really describe to you. Maybe the single greatest cover ever. If not, it's up there. 2-1 for the covers. Smashing Pumpkins covered Landslide by Fleetwood Mac. I actually really like this track. I might even prefer the instrumentation from the Pumpkins here. Billy Corgan is one of my favorite guitarists of all time, but this isn't a better song, no way. Stevie Nicks is perhaps... let's go with 5 times. A 5 times better vocalist than Billy Corgan. It's her song. I think the magic of this song is in the lyrics here. And when it comes from the author herself, it hits a little bit harder. Really great cover, but not quite up to snuff. 2-2. Metallica covered Turn the Page by Bob Seger. No way, man. I think the original blows this one out of the water. I don't think it's close either. It's not a bad cover, but I do think it loses a lot of its charm when surrounded by metal instrumentation. 3-2 for the originals. Disturbed covered The Sound of Silence by Simon and Garfunkel. No. My heart actually sank in my chest when I thought I might have to praise Disturbed, but no fear. The original is much better here. I actually just prefer everything on the original. The vocals, the instrumentation, the tone of the song seems completely different. Just much better in my eyes. Definitely one of the better Disturbed songs, though, but that's probably because they didn't write it themselves. 4-2 for the originals. Pantera covered Planet Caravan by Black Sabbath. I gotta go with the original here as well. To be honest, these are almost completely indiscernible. That's just a big word for the same. I don't really get a different experience listening to this cover, so why would I pick that one, you know? Original all the way. 5-2. Weezer covered Africa by Toto. Good God, no. And one of the wider gaps we'll see in this video, to be honest. This just stinks, man. A cover that actually just sucks the life out of the original. Well done, Weezer. 6-2 for the originals. Lana Del Rey covered Doin' Time by Sublime. I can't in good faith say this is better, but I enjoyed this much more than I expected to. It's a great rendition of this track. It sounds very different from the original. It's really well done, but the original is just kind of magic, man. I don't know what else to say. 7-2. Deftones covered Drive by The Cars. I'm going to give this to the cover, actually. I prefer Chino as a vocalist, no matter how unfathomably incorrect you think that is. That guy in the studio is almost unbeatable, if only he had a quarter of the talent when he was performing live. Anyway, the cover sounds a bit more polished to me. Better vocals, better production, I guess. I think it's better here. 7-3. Limp Bizkit covered Behind Blue Eyes by The Who. It's hard for me to try and take a Limp Bizkit song at face value. They have too many songs singing about assholes to really create a powerful track like this. They do as good as you could expect, but I don't think they're the right band for this song, nor do I think it's half as good as the original, I wouldn't say. 8-3 for the originals. Shinedown covered Simple Man by Leonard Skinner. I don't know how to say it, and I'm not looking it up. You know what, Shinedown guy in my comments? I'm going to give you this one. In an inexplicable turn of events, I think I prefer the Shinedown cover here. I've always thought Brent Smith was a really talented vocalist trapped within his own songwriting ability, but on a cover track, that bastard had free reign to dominate. This is an incredible cover, very similar instrumentally, but I think Brent's vocals are better here. 8-4. Limp Bizkit covered Faith by George Michael. This, at the very least, is an interesting way to cover this song. I don't think it's quite as good, but it's a very different version of this track. It's got that Limp Bizkit stench to it, which isn't really my thing, but I don't think it's a bad thing either. Definitely not as good as the original, though. 9-4. Nirvana covered The Man Who Sold the World by David Bowie. Gotta give this one to Mr. Cobain, I think. Of course, Bowie's version is absurdly good, but the Nirvana cover just feels like the perfect version of this song. Everything about the original just kind of taken to new heights. Another one of the greatest covers to ever release. 9 to 5. John Mayer covered Free Fallin' by Tom Petty. I think I go with the cover here as well. Incredibly beautiful song, but John Mayer's live performance of this song is just absolutely magical, man. Perhaps it's nostalgia for me. I grew up on a decent amount of John Mayer. But man, this whole live show is just one of the greatest I've ever seen. Another win for the covers. 9 to 6. They're catching up. Nirvana covered Where Did You Sleep Last Night by Leadbelly. This is a real tough one to compare, to be honest. I love the Nirvana rendition a lot. But man, did the original surprise me. Really powerful rendition. I think the vocals are probably better on the original, but you can tell it's old as dirt. The production isn't excellent on that song. Still gonna give it to the original though. Excellent song. You could pick either one, I wouldn't be upset. 10 to 6. The Red Hot Chili Peppers covered Higher Ground by Stevie Wonder. You didn't think I'd find a way to bash these frauds? I always find a way, dear viewer. Luckily, Anthony and the gang made this one pretty easy. They covered one of the greatest musicians to ever live, and they did a super mediocre job. Obvious win for the original. If you don't think so, perhaps a little fun fact could sway your opinion. Did you know that Anthony Kiedis, the lead singer of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, in his own autobiography, admitted to being a pedophile? 11 to 6. Chris Cornell covered Nothing Compares to You by Prince. Don't worry, I'd do the other one too. Chris Cornell's rendition is controversially my favorite version of this song. I do think he's one of the greatest vocalists to ever live, and I think he does a fantastic job with this song. One of his greatest live performances ever, I'd say. Absolutely. Better than the original. 11 to 7. Faith No More covered Easy by the Commodores. I could go either way with this one, to be honest. I lean towards the original, but Faith No More does an excellent job of covering this track. A 1A, 1B kind of situation, but I think the original just works better in most ways, even if it's very slight. 12 to 7. Paramore covered Stuck on You by Failure. Super underrated track from a super underrated 90s grunge band. I sadly do think Paramore does this song better. I think Hayley Williams is an excellent vocalist and just does a better job with this song. The original is a bit louder, I guess. I think the lyricism works a bit better with Hayley's softer voice and the softer instrumentation. 12 to 8. Dinosaur Jr. covered Love Song by The Cure. Hydrogen Bomb versus Coughing Baby kind of situation here. It's not a bad cover, but Love Song can't be performed better than the original. It's just not possible. This is an interesting cover, though. I like the idea, but I'd never pick this over the original, no way. 13-8. Johnny Cash covered Hurt by 9 Inch Nails. I've been informed this is a hot take, but I vastly prefer the 9 Inch Nails version here. Perhaps it's the stage of life I'm in, but I find the original far more haunting. I prefer the instrumentation, the cold piano, and the distant strings to Johnny Cash's acoustic rendition. Both are great, but I'd pick 9 Inch Nails any day. 14 to 8. Seether covered Careless Whisper by George Michael. This is actually a shockingly good cover. I really liked these guys a lot when I was a kid, though I have kind of grown out of a lot of their stuff, but this is a pretty great cover. Very different from the original. It takes a completely different tone as well. It sounds far more desperate and with angst than the original, but it's just not quite as good. A great cover, but it can't surpass the original. 15 to 8. Death covered Painkiller by Judas Priest. Oh man, I don't like this song that much. I'm sorry. The vocals kind of kill it for me. I don't expect your forgiveness, but do note that I don't actually care. I'll give it to the original. From an instrumentation standpoint, it's one of the rawest metal tracks I've ever heard, and they're the same on each song. 16 to 8. Alien Ant Farm covered Smooth Criminal by Michael Jackson. Absolutely not, but this is a pretty sick cover. Really cool, and to be honest, it feels like its own song to me. That's how you know a cover is great. But sadly, the original is just, it's too great to be surpassed. It's closer than you'd probably think, though. 17 to 8. Bad Wolves covered Zombie by the Cranberries. Really sweet track. It's a tribute to the late Dolores. I can't say her last name, but it's just not better. No way. Her vocals are perfect for this track. The heavier instrumentation I find to not work as well as the original, but this is a solid cover. I'd give it a half a smile. 18 to 8. Tool covered No Quarter by Led Zeppelin. Somehow they made this shit 4 minutes longer, but I guess that's Tool for you. Do note that I am a massive Tool, but I really do think this cover's better. I think this is one of the greatest covers I've ever heard. They just take No Quarter and flawlessly transform it into something almost completely different, into a Tool song. This is magic from Maynard. Magic, I say. 18 to 9. Seether covered Immortality by Pearl Jam. Perhaps another hot take here, but I don't really think the original track is that good. It's alright, but I think fucking Seether, of all people, take this song and expand upon it in a beautiful way. Maybe it's the acoustic setting or Sean's kind of strained vocals on this song, but I far prefer the cover here. 18 to 10. Sinead O'Connor covered Nothing Compares to You by Prince. Same thing I said for Chris Cornell, pretty much. It's also better than the original, but I prefer Chris's take on this song. I, of course, wasn't alive when this one dropped, so I'm not really familiar with the impact it had on a lot of you old farts, but it doesn't hit me all that hard personally. Still better than the original, though. I'll give it its flowers. 18-11. Whitney Houston covered I Will Always Love You by Dolly Parton. I had no fucking idea this wasn't her song, and I don't think you did either. Maybe you did. I don't actually know. How could I possibly know? This is better than the original. 18-12. Jeff Buckley covered Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. There have been many covers of Hallelujah, but none compared to Jeff Buckley's, if you ask me. I can't really explain it. Well, maybe I can. He's one of the greatest vocalists to ever live, and the passion heard on this rendition I don't think you can hear on any other renditions of this song. Not even the original. Another win for the covers. 18-13. Guns N' Roses covered Knockin' on Heaven's Door by Bob Dylan. Way worse than the original, my god. I'm quickly becoming a Guns N' Roses hater, and man, does this hammer that shit home. I don't actually understand the appeal of Axl Rose's vocals. It's like nails on a chalkboard for me, man. I don't know what to tell you. The original is phenomenal. 19-13. Marilyn Manson covered Sweet Dreams Are Made of This by Eurythmics. I'm actually not sure. I don't really like this guy. He's scary, but this is a pretty excellent cover. It's very different, much heavier version of the track, but if that's your thing, this is a phenomenal cover. I could really go either way. I have no real preference. I'm not going to add any scores. Cyndi Lauper covered Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Robert Hazard. Much, much, much better than the original. The original sounds kind of creepy to me. I don't know why, but I far prefer Cyndi Lauper's vocals on this song. This might be the widest gap between the original and the cover, to be honest. This is night and day. The cover's so much better. 19-14. Deftones covered Please, Please, Please Let Me Get What I Want by the Smiths. Egregiously overrated cover to wrap us up here. It's not that good, man. And that comes from Dr. Deftones himself. It's a decent enough cover, but man, do I prefer the softer instrumentation on the original for this track. Two very different tones. It's not a bad cover per se, but comfortably worse than the original. 20-14. Fuck, that was closer than I thought it'd be. If this video gets 2 million likes, I'll upload my own cover of Tool's Sober, where the only instrument comes from my good friend Charles on the triangle. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe for more horrific music takes, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.